Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another week, another episode of Tales from the Terrordome. As I'm talking right now, it's Monday, a little after 8 p.m. And when I was a kid, Mondays, 8 p.m.s, TNT, that's where the big boys played, WCW, World Championship Wrestling. And occasionally, actually, mostly for the better part of 2 to 3 years, you would hear this advertisement is paid for by the New World Order. That's where the Virginia Tech Hokies are right now. You know, just gonna go ahead and tie it in here. We're looking at major regime changes. We got all this money on the way. New World Order is in town. Too sweet playing the Wolfpack this week down in Carter Finley.
Yes, sir.
And to talk about it, you know him, my guy Brian Siegler in the building. Man, how you doing?
Man, I just got back from vacation. I was away for a week down in Orlando, man. Thankfully, I didn't have to see in person most of that ODU debacle. I didn't see a ton of the Wofford in real time. I watched it back later, both of them. But man, I'm coming off a first day back at work after a week off, so I've been grinding today, man, trying to catch up on emails and get stuff in order. But it's been a blast, man. I'm glad to be here with you.
Yeah, man. I went to Wofford. Uh,
I'm sorry.
it, hey,
I heard it
I
was a
had
good time though. I sometimes firing a coach, you get a little bit of like the monkeys off your back a little bit. Like even if you know that this isn't the team that we want it to be, there's something new on the horizon. You're not stuck in this purgatory anymore.
it was full almost. It took me 40 minutes to get into Lane Stadium. 40.
Man,
I missed Sandman.
man, we show up, man. It's crazy.
And like I don't yeah, it was, um I just went for the vibes. We had a good tailgate. Stephen cooked breakfast Sammy's. It's Oktoberfest, so they had like a bunch of like pretzels and beer cheese and brats and lots of Miller Lights. Like they were drinking. We had little mini Oktoberfest kegs. Like, I mean, we made it. We're like, if we're gonna still come, we're gonna make it count. You know what I'm saying? So
If you're gonna be there, you might as well do it the right way. Like it's no sense in
yeah.
half-assing if you're gonna make it out there.
Also, don't know how many warm weather games we have left. This weather
Yes.
was pretty warm. Sunscreen was required, but yeah, it was nice to see. Um, I will say, like, obviously it's Wofford, but we were very aggressive. We were getting to the quarterback. Kyron Jones still looks like he second guesses himself throwing the ball. Like you'll see a wide open receiver and be like, "Should I throw that?" And it's just like you should just throw it. But running game was there. Like it just, I mean, it's Wofford, right? But at the same time, it looked like there was a little more focus this week than previous weeks.
Yeah, I've heard that people were on time for practice and stuff, so that's a good sign. Um, Now, so watching the game back, I'm with you on the Kyron thing. Like, I feel like he's gotten to a point now where he's either being too conservative or like too risky with the football. So it's like he's either taking those completely unnecessary risks trying to be a hero, or he's taking the only safe option that he has in the route and not taking those kind of calculated risks where it's like, okay, well, there's some coverage there, but I've got some separation. I got a window. Let me try to get the ball in there. It's like he's not fully trusting himself, or when he does trust himself, he trusts himself too much, and he gets himself into problems. And that's we saw that I think early on, in South Carolina, and we saw it in the second half against Vandy. And we saw it, a decent amount against ODU as well. It feels like this game was definitely one where he was trying to play clean as much as he could, sometimes to the detriment of yards on the field.
No, yeah, absolutely. He also doesn't run nearly as aggressive as it used to. Like he really used to look for contact, and now it doesn't seem to be the case. I wonder if that's a result of just getting some banged up over the last 3 years or what it was, but it's definitely a noticeable difference in the player that is Kyron Jones right now.
Yeah, and it's funny because like when we look back on week 2, that Vandy game, like there was a couple moments where we saw him like kind of look for contact early in that game. You know, you felt a little bit good about what he was putting together, and then we saw the wheels just completely fall off of the offense and really the team as a whole in the second half, and they just didn't have an answer once they got punched.
No, they didn't. And you know, we got embarrassed versus versus Vanderbilt and versus ODU. Come
Yep.
out, beat Wofford. Don't know. I haven't heard of any portal entries besides Dante Lovett. I know like Caleb Woodson, Caleb Brown, and a couple others like Sherrod Coble and Quentin Reddish. They all sat out versus Wofford, but I haven't heard any declaration of naming the portal yet. So I'm not gonna put them in there if they're not going. I'm not here to tell lies on kids, So, but it does. I mean that's the message it sent to me was like, if you're not hurt, like what's your reason for not playing in this game where you're gonna get lots of good film?
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, when you look at it, those are probably guys that don't need film to go elsewhere, right? So like
Mm-hmm.
they put their stuff's out there. We've seen them play well. Um, if they aren't moving on, then there's no reason for them not to have played for next level aspirations, right? Because you could put some really good tape out there from a NFL standpoint against an opponent like Wofford. So yeah, you gotta think that those are definitely names at the top of the list of potential portal entries outside of Dante Lovett. I'm wondering if that's going to happen, as we get closer to the end of the month. Um, but it's intriguing to see where that lands. I mean, I anticipate that we're gonna have to flip at least half this roster, if not more, with the regime change. So it's not, you know, guys are gonna leave. We're gonna get some new guys in there. It's probably gonna take at least a cycle to get a good amount of guys in there because you got to sell the vision on whatever the new program is going to look like. Hopefully you bring a coach that like Dion is bringing his own Louis with him a little bit. So we'll see.
Yeah, it's gonna sound a little harsh on the Caleb Brown front, but like you came in from Hawaii, all you put on film was burnt toast, and then like if you're gonna transfer, like if that's your intent, like bro, I don't know, man. Like that film, maybe other schools don't care, but if that was me, I'd be like, man, this dude gets beat a lot. I don't know.
Maybe he's saying that Hawaii tape can still talk because it got him to Virginia Tech. It can get him to the next spot. I don't know.
Yeah, JoJo Krim looked pretty good though out there. Gabe played. That was my favorite
Gabe
part of the whole game. Gabe playing was my favorite part of the whole game. I was so happy to see Gabe Williams in that game.
Gabe was out there. I love that he got that chase down. Really good angle on that. Showed good speed, good versatility. Definitely what we kind of expected him to be at this point, and coming back from an injury like that, getting to get out there and get some good time and make a play like that, I think that's going to be good for his confidence moving forward. And hopefully, I mean, we've had him on Boundary Corner. We've had some conversations with him, outside of that. Great kid, definitely somebody that I'm hoping that we can keep in the fold, regardless of kind of what happens next in the coming next 6 to 8 weeks, whatever it is.
Yeah, I would love to keep him. I would love to keep Cam Seldon. I'm a big Cam Seldon believer. I'm glad he came home from Tennessee. I thought we had lost him for good when he left. And there's like a couple of offensive linemen like Altuner. I definitely want to keep around. If the new coach comes in, then maybe he wants to keep Matt Moore. I don't know. I would like to see more of what Matt Moore can do with I guess the safety cushion on job security with a new coach. I don't know, but a lot of these like it's kind of like where I'm at with the Hokies is where I was at with the Broncos 2 years ago. Like a lot of these kids, a lot of these players have been here for a couple years. So if they're gonna leave in January, like all we did was lose. So like maybe it's a good thing to cleanse the whole thing. I don't know, but I'm not gonna be mad one way or another if a kid leaves or stays because that's their decision, and I'm not gonna hate on them for it. They got to make the best decision for them. I'm just like last year, I didn't want to lose Mansour. Like Xavier Chaplin hurt, Braylon Moore hurt, but um, this year I'm kind of like, man, I'm just willing to roll the dice and just see what happens because we can't control it. You know, prize gone, so they have free reign to go wherever they want. Just hoping that whoever we hire can come in and fix, like, bring people and get people overhauling the portal. Like, I'm just hoping that we can get something turned around with the new resources and money coming in fairly quickly.
Yeah, that's my hope. I mean, we've got when we look at it, there's going to be a good amount of turnover. Like I said, I think you're going to see a lot of guys that are going to, make some business decisions. I think we're at a point now where, the portal, it's it's good for players, but I think in some circumstances like this, it can be bad for players because it gives them the opportunity to test the waters, but it might end up being something where they're taking a step down or they're getting left out if they didn't calculate properly in the process. Um, and maybe this is something where a new regime might give these kids a life raft where it's say, hey, get in the portal, but if you don't see anything you don't like and we're still we still need to fill out our roster. We still like what you've been able to do so far. You might be able to swing on back through. That's going to depend on the coach. Because some coaches are very like, once you're in the portal, there's no coming back, and some coaches are like, you know what, we'll play it by ear and see what happens. So
Yep, some coaches are definitely very much the game is the game, and some are very much if you're not committed, you don't need to be here.
yeah, and I think
So
it works a little different when there's a regime change because there's a lot of unknowns in a regime change. Whereas if you get in the portal for a coach that is going to be there for another 2 to 3 years, like that, you've already made that decision where you're not fully in on what this vision is, whether for you or for the program at large. Whereas with something like a regime change, I can see a coach being a little more flexible on those fronts and saying, "Hey, I get you got to keep all the cards on the table that you can until you're ready to make a firm decision on this thing."
no, absolutely. Do you have like it's like the hot topic on the internet, but do you have like a wish list coaching wise?
Man, it's funny because like I've been thinking about it, but I also haven't been thinking about it because like all this went down while I was on vacation. So it's like I've got guys in the front of my head that I'm like, all right, I think Dan Mullen would be fine. I think I wouldn't have a problem with a name like that. I wouldn't mind a fence swing, like trying to back up the Brinks truck to get Kirk Signetti back in here. Um, Outside of that, I'm willing to listen because I don't really have any other guys that I feel like are firm enough or check all the boxes that I want to check at one time. So there's going to be a little bit more of a compromise, or there's going to be areas where I'm going to have to say, well, I can't have that, but at least I get this. Whether it's Summerall or some of the other guys on that list.
Summerall would be interesting because I think he turned down 10 million from North Carolina. So I don't know like what he's actually looking for. Apparently, it's not money.
Yeah,
It
well,
might be something else. I don't know.
hopefully we figure out our GM situation and all that because that might be part of it. And right now we don't have that. Like we're probably further behind North Carolina on that front today. Now,
Yeah.
what we're building and what we're talking about and what's been proposed, we might get there in the next 2 to 3 months. Whatever it may be, but we're definitely not at a spot right now where we can say we've got this in place turnkey. You just come in here and you coach football.
Right. And I mean, I guess at this point it's kind of like um it went off the rails real quick this year. So like if you were making regime changes, like it was I, mean, I hate being 0-3, but at the same maybe it was a blessing to be able to get ahead of it so quickly. Um and not only that, but like everyone is talking about Virginia Tech. Like
Yeah.
no, it's like free press. Like no bad press is really in this sense is really bad. I mean, yeah, we're being talked about because we fired our coach and we've been some cheeks for a couple years, but at the same time, like Pete Thamel's announcing the money, like we might be starting to look sexy out here in these streets, Brian.
Sexy. I don't know if I'm ready to say sexy, but I certainly think so. And this is something we've talked about before, right? The national media wants us to be relevant again.
Oh
They
yeah.
do. They want us to be relevant again. They talk about us every year. They talk about the atmosphere. They talk about the fans. They talk about when we play the style of football that most folks are accustomed to, how much fun it is to watch Virginia Tech play football. And so where we're at is that we just got to get catch up with everybody else from a structure standpoint, from a financial standpoint, from a product on the field standpoint. And all of this is kind of happening at once. We thought it was going to be piecemeal, and now everything's
Mm-hmm.
kind of happening all at once. You're getting a new coach, you're potentially getting a new AD at the same time. You're getting a GM, CEO type role for your football program. You get this new money. We're going to talk about that. I know all this coming in at the same time. It's like, all right, so we're gonna have to check a lot of boxes. We got a lot of boxes to check, but we're at least setting ourselves up to check them all at about the same time, where we're not going to be waiting to see what that looks like over a 4 or 5 year span. We're going to know pretty quickly whether we're doing the right thing or not.
Yeah, that's why like I know we're a ways away from doing the coach thing, so I try to like temper myself with it.
Yeah.
It is fun to talk about. Like if we're gonna have money, like we're gonna have money, and they're talking about like we're positioned up there with like A&M and Clemson and all these schools as far as total overall athletic budget. Like that first swing needs to be big. Like
I mean,
I'm not talking like Nick Saban, or like maybe I'm like call Nick Saban and make him just be like, hey, no,
make
all
him
right,
tell you
cool,
no.
have a great one. But like, uh, I really like. I know he's still a small sample size, but Fran Brown at Syracuse, like somebody's going to pay him. Either Syracuse is going to pay him or somebody else is going to pay him. And I like his demeanor, and I like obviously the results on the field have been pretty good at a place where that's not typically a thing. And I think he's a good recruiter, obviously. So I don't know from there. I don't know where you would go, but my first couple swings would be either retired legend, like recently retired legend, or like I don't know, active P4 head coach.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the idea, or at least a P4 head coach or someone that has had P4 experience that may be kind of recircling the wagons, right? Um, I'm interested to see where Fran Brown ends up. My only caveat on Fran Brown is that it's a small sample size for a guy that kind of already took probably a shorter route to the head coaching role than most people would, in terms of climbing the ladder there. So I'm still in wait and see mode here. Are we going to get ourselves into another um, you know Brent Price situation, or even Justin Fuente situation with a guy that only has limited to no P4 coaching experience, leading in there? I like what he's done so far, but like you said, small sample size, and just you know, don't want to put a big commitment out there if we're not going to quite be ready to know what we're getting in return.
Right. Yeah, like what was I gonna say? Silverfield from Ole Miss, or not Ole Miss, Memphis.
Memphis. That's my boy.
Like he is O line. He coaches O line, right? And then
He's coached everything. He's coached O line. He's coached tight ends. When he was at Hampton Sydney, when I was there, he was coaching tight ends and defensive line.
yeah, so like Fuente, like PTSD, Memphis. I think this might be misinformation, but Fuente was like last in recruiting in the conference when he was at Memphis, and Silverfield has been first and second the past 2 years in the conference in recruiting. So I think it would be a little different. Plus that big win over Arkansas.
Yeah, Silverfield's definitely proved that he can go into P4 schools and come out with W's consistently. He's won the last four P4 games that he's played at this point. I think that speaks to his ability to get his players ready for big games. He is definitely someone that is very preparation focused. You know, he was still when I was at Hampton Sydney, he was still an undergrad, but his plan out of high school was I'm going to be coaching collegiate football while I'm getting my undergrad. He was coaching under Marty Favret at Hampton Sydney 4 years when I was at Hampton Sydney. So he already had 4 years of experience before he even had an undergrad degree. So this is a guy that has known what he wants to do, has been prepared for it, has had a plan for it since high school. So I think that's what people don't really understand when we talk about Ryan Silverfield is like this guy has lived and breathed coaching football for as long as you can even know. His entire adult life. It's crazy.
Well, now I'm sold. I'm sold.
Hey man.
No, there's a plethora of options out here, and you just don't know. Like obviously, it's a long way away. Nobody's gonna be our head coach tomorrow, so we got several steps before we get there. We haven't even had the official BOV meeting yet on the 30th. That's coming up, but we have seen those things.
We have the
show
numbers.
Up, and when I saw it, I was like, "Oh yeah, dig it!" You know.
I saw it and I'm like, excited. All right. So we're getting serious with the money. We're getting serious with the money, and that's important. That's the first step that has to happen because if you're not serious with the money, you're not going to be consistent against most of your competition, even if you're punching up. If you're punching up. So you're getting serious with the money. Now we got to get serious with the organizational and the structure behind the program. Who's making the calls? Who's doing all these things? That's step 2, and then step 3 is obviously getting the right head coach that can win you football games.
Right. And the person leading this whole thing is it Rokovich? I don't know how you say his name. Sorry if I'm mispronouncing, but he was on the BOV back in the early 2000s when we made the switch to the ACC.
Yep, that's right.
Yeah,
and he
was
back? The guy that like what it was I think on there from the late 90s till like 2008 or something like that was when he kind of bowed out. So I mean, if you look at the corresponding time there, that kind of tells you a lot of the story. You know, this guy was definitely had his hands on the purse strings during a time where we were doing very well.
Right.
And when you look at that and you look at, you know, when Beamer had the UNC flirtation, and we went out and we paid, you know, we had the highest assistant pool in the country as a result of that for salary.
Mm-hmm.
And then you look at where we were at the end of Beamer and then during the Fuente years and kind of where we set that bar and then we just kept that bar there. You know what I'm saying? And I think that that was the problem is that we got complacent. We got complacent with Beamer being able to win with the money that was already allocated. We got complacent with doing things the way we had always done them because we had certain guys in place that had those relationships that could pull guys, and then once the climate changed, once 757 was no longer the best kept secret in college football, and once the guys that already had those established relationships started moving on to other stops or retiring, all of a sudden now you gotta start from scratch. You don't have the playbook anymore, and you don't have the financial backing and the structure within your organization to go out there and make things happen.
Right. And now it appears okay. So Witt, regardless of how people feel about him, like it hasn't been the best. Obviously, people want him gone, but for him to execute this whole thing, if this is like indeed his swan song, then life is hilarious because people blame him for ruining athletics, and he might as well he very well might have saved Virginia Tech athletics with this spark, or because now the BOV was publicly embarrassed, saying they were unaware of all of this stuff. They put this committee together to vigorously figure out the money situation, and now they have a plan, and they're actually, for a school that's never borrowed money or gone into debt, they're going to risk that. They're going to do that for a
Yeah.
short-term bridge loan, and they're really beefing up the resources. They're making this. They're not just putting lipstick on a pig, Brian. They're remaking and remodeling this whole thing to make it as attractive as possible. So the effort that wasn't there before is there now, and that's the reason why I am so optimistic about where this thing can actually go.
Yeah, and it sounds like so you got 30 million of that 47 in year one coming from philanthropy, and it sounds like most of that for year one, so fiscal year 26 has already been allocated. So
Right.
that's not a goal, that's not a funding goal. That is something that has been already achieved, or at least in principle agreed upon. What that's looking like for 27, 28, 29, that's where reorganization of Hokie Club, big donors stepping up, things of that nature start coming into play. I'm gonna ask you this though. There's a lot to be said of Witt, and I think you can look at it both ways, because I think Witt is putting together a plan that can get us where we want to go, but at the same time, it does kind of feel like the guy in the cook in the kitchen that started the grease fire, and then he's taking credit because he was the one that called 911. Like at the end of the day, some of this he's got to own. Some of this situation that we're in right now, he's got to own. Whether it's a combination of not getting the structure in place, screwing up the hires, or not having a conversation with BOV in the year of our Lord 2025 instead of 5 years ago, when maybe we could have, you know, been one coaching regime closer to being back where we want to be.
Okay, so this is kind of how I view it. I would put 75% of the blame on Whip Babcock. I would put 15% of the blame on Jim Weaver, and I would put 10% of the blame on the ACC commissioner making that horrendous RSN deal,
Yeah.
the media rights deal, because Jim never did enough when he had the chance, when we were really winning, to capitalize and push us forward. He allegedly had a chance to put us in the SEC. We said no, so they took Missouri. Uh, but even then, like, I mean, that would have required foresight, because the playing field was a lot more even in 2012 than it is now, because the Big Ten and the SEC have had amazing media deals that have just been, and they've had great success with their programs. They're always featured. They're always in the national championship. So all the money is just flowing there. Uh, so that's kind of where I put the blame. Like, Witt was handed something that was starting to dilapidate, and he didn't call the fixers. He didn't try to fix it. He kind of just like tried to, you know, bargain bin it, and it just limped along until finally it died.
Yeah.
That's how I would put it.
All right, so you have some of that. I think Witt's problem is that he came in and he didn't make football his focus. He kept things like Beamer, John Boleyn, you got this. It's been running okay for a while. I think you can probably keep this going for a little bit. I'm going to focus on everything else. My 5-year plan is everything else. And in the meantime, you let your cash cow bleed out for 5 years. And you can't do that. And I think that
Mm-mm.
that's where he ran afoul.
Yeah, I would agree with that. So hopefully, whatever's about to happen is like the light at the end of the tunnel, like the fruit is starting to ripen. Hopefully,
Yeah.
uh, I think these are the seeds being planted now. Obviously, you got to make the hires. You got to structure everything within the athletic department within Merriman. Um, I think anybody that has anything to do with football over the past couple of years or fundraising or any sort of monetary position should be looked at and assessed. Um, Figure out if they're the best person to still be there or not. Uh, we've been it's been going downhill for too long under these people's watch, so I'm not gonna feel sorry about like, hey, it's a results business and we need results now because the fan base is great. The national media is talking about us. They want us to be good again. Like it's been too long. Oh man, they want this or we deserve this. Like I just want to have it.
Yeah. And to that point, when we talk about Witt's tenure, I think he has made those other sports better during his tenure. But at the end of the day, if you're going to sacrifice your cash cow and not have at least one national championship to show for it, is it worth it?
Right.
I don't think it
Respect
is.
soil judging.
Exactly.
Not
Like
joking.
at the end of the day, like you got to go out there and you got to be winning something if you're going to redirect your energy and your focus to these other sports and not have it on football. Because when you came in, I mean, football was it. I mean, football was the thing. Other sports were good, but other sports were good as a direct result of the eyes and revenue and focus that football brought to Virginia Tech athletics.
Yeah.
That's
I mean,
just what it is.
there are ways to do things. Like I know Penn State, um, all of the gratuity that is spent or given in their stadiums or arenas all goes to NIL. Like I know, like Virginia Tech, I think most of it gets donated to charitable cause. They're all, but like there's got to be a way to get concessions and gratuities or anything like because it adds up just in the NIL pile or however you got to redirect it. I don't
Well,
know.
again, the allocations are all going into kind of one pot now. So like, you don't have to necessarily be as particular with how you are, where the beans are going anymore, because you can use the beans in this pile to pay for players now.
Right.
So
Yeah.
at the end of the day, let's get the money in there and let's put together the best product that we can put out on the field and let the chips fall where they may. Because I mean, when we talk about money, this is going to put us in what, top 3 or 4 in the ACC, and it's going to put us positioned pretty darn well relative to Big Ten and SEC competition. Kind of that upper third of that conversation. Now, obviously, everybody else is going to be ratcheting up. They may not be ratcheting up, 30+% at one go, like we just are doing with this move.
Right.
But there's still going to be other all those teams are going to still be ratcheting up their money. So where it's looking now may not be where it is by the time fiscal year 26 rolls around. I get that, but at the same time, we're putting money out there where we can be competitive, but we've got to do the other things as well. Like you said, we got to get the right people in place from an AD standpoint. We got to get the right people in place from a football GM CEO standpoint, and you got to get the right coach in there that can get people to go out there and win some football games. And I think when we look at what the next coach needs to be, I think you need to at worst have that kind of a high floor candidate, where that regardless of players that you got out there, regardless of injuries, regardless of all those things that you can't necessarily calculate for, you're probably going to have a 6 or 7 win team, worst case scenario, and on average be able to punch out 8 games a year, occasionally punch up and get 10 or 11. That's kind of the blueprint I think we need to look for, where making a bowl is the worst case scenario, not the expectation every year. And that's kind of where we're at now. Like, making a bowl and beating UVA is kind of what the expectation is. Even if we want more, we don't necessarily plan to get more than that every year at this point. And I think we need to kind of reassess, not only what our expectations are, but what the thing that we hold coaches and the athletic department accountable for is, we got to be consistently winning 8 games. We've got to occasionally play for the ACC championship. We've got to be at least in that conversation every November. If we're going into November and we're no longer in the conversation for going and playing in Charlotte, then we're not doing the right thing.
We should have ACC championship expectations every September.
Yeah. And like I said, if we're going in November and we're already out of the conversation, that's a problem.
Yeah. Yeah, we should be playing. I was going to say we shouldn't be playing any later in a bowl game than January 1st, but college football playoff starts in December now. So, we need to be a perennial or semi-perennial freaking college football playoff team. Like, we need to be in that mix. Like, Lane Stadium needs to host some playoff games every now and then, or we go to some, like, either way, we need to be in that. Like, if you want to get this thing to where it needs to be, we need to be, especially if you're spending this much money. With money spent comes expectation. So it needs to be a lot more stricter on, or a lot shorter of a leash on the people in charge with all this money, because we can't afford to squander it with potential P2 whatever coming up, like conference realignment. We can't miss the boat. If we have the money, we have the fan base. If we have the results, we're in somewhere. I believe that.
Yeah, and like you said, this can't be the Board of Visitors makes this 4-year plan. They hand it to the next AD, and then they do this and don't keep a tight rein on what's being done with the money, what the results are, what the return on that investment is, regardless of wins and losses. Are we seeing at least a trajectory that we're happy with, moving towards the goals that we want to move towards? Like, I don't expect, by end of 2027 for us to be an ACC championship contender, but I'd like to see us be an 8-win team. I'd like to see us be able to go out. If you get the right hire and you put the right players in place and you do all the things that you need to do, you should be able to win 8 games in the ACC.
Yeah, we're gonna need a coach, like a motivator developer type. That's because we're gonna still end up with a ton of 3-star recruits. Like, they make up the most of the recruiting base anyway. It's just you only really hear about the 4 and 5s, but like, we're gonna need a guy who can come in, probably bring instant replacements from his previous squad. And we're gonna have to Jacksonville Jaguars free agency overspend in the portal to convince some kids to come here until we can put results on the field that speak to these kids. Like, yeah, I can go here, I can get a bag, I can look good, I can be on ESPN every week, and I can go to the league. Sign me up.
Yep. And I'm not saying we got to go out there and throw bags like Texas Tech,
Nah,
but
I'd
at the
like to,
same
but
time, you can do that on one or two players out the
right.
gate and make a statement and say, hey, come here. This is your baby. You are the guy. You're the jewel of this class. We're gonna make you the focal point. Come out here, make some plays, and let the chips fall where they may. And whether that's at a quarterback position, whether that's at a DN position, some impact level, position group that you can go out there and point to and say, this is the results that we had. You can come here and do that too. You got something to sell now.
Yeah, I would spend big on O line, quarterback, and corners. That's what I would do.
Yeah,
You can develop the D line. Yeah.
I throw a pass rusher in there too. Maybe
Oh
one
yeah,
pass rusher
good
in there.
edge. Everybody loves a good edge for sure. But hey, man, it's looking good. The the one time donations it shrinks every year, which means it's supposed to shrink every year according to that plan, which means everything else is going according to. Uh, nothing makes people open their pockets like hope and wins. They see results and they see hope. People are gonna. There's gonna be like a new coach rub that people are gonna just instantly donate to, just because they're excited. We just need
Yep.
to make sure it counts.
Yeah,
Like it
and
has to be successful.
I think we probably sometime between Vanderbilt and ODU saw probably the lowest point. I think from a fan base perspective that we've seen. I think even maybe more so than the Fuente years, only because now it's repeated itself another cycle. Now you're back here 4 years later, with other than like some rebuilt bridges in Virginia, not a whole lot to show for it, right?
Yeah.
Um, and I like we've talked about this a lot, me and you, and on our podcast. Like, I still think that from a structural standpoint, this program's in a better place after Brent
Yeah.
Pry. But at the same time, you're 4 years further down the road with your name in the mud, and it hasn't came out the mud.
Right.
So the brand is weaker in those 4 years, even if the structure is probably a little bit better in those 4 years. Call it a wash if you want to. I think it's gonna, with this new money, it's gonna be an easier sell to get a quality coach in here than it was 4 years ago. I think if you get the structure right, it's going to be even easier. Thinking about people that are running the football program, people that are hands on in the athletic department, I think that's going to make hiring a little bit easier. And I think the combination of money and lack of structure is what made it hard to hire this last go around anyway. It sounds like there was a handful of guys that were probably hired on our list that told us no.
Yeah.
Probably more than we would like to have thought about at the time. And I
Yeah.
think as we're seeing kind of where all these little things that we've talked about maybe separately put together, it's like, okay, well, I see why people were telling us no.
Right.
I get it. I get it. And as fans of a program, it's like a lot of times you only see the things that you love about it, and you're like, this is a wonderful situation, but at the same time, there's a lot of things about it from a standpoint of a coach that would be like, you know what, this is not setting me up for success. This is setting me up to be the fall guy if I'm not going out there and winning 8 games every year.
No, that's a fact. And earlier, transitioning, I brought up WCW and the guy who ran a lot of the WCW stuff was the American Dream, Daddy Dusty Rhodes and Brian Figler. We are going down to Raleigh, North Carolina on Saturday night at 7:30 p.m. Eastern, Carter Finley Stadium, to play the North Carolina State Wolfpack, baby. And we going to bring the thunder.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You got to, hey, do the whole show like that next time, man. Do the whole damn show like that.
Oh man, nah, dude, man, who knows? They have no defense,
They
and
have
we
no
probably don't
defense. We
either.
have no offense. Let's see what the fuck
Yeah,
happens.
yeah, like it's just whatever at this point. But it would be nice. Out of all, if you look at the schedule, it's probably one of the more winnable games remaining because of
one of
how
the
bad their defense is.
one of the more winnable games remaining. Certainly in the top 2 or 3 in that conversation. Um, it's gonna be one of those ones where it's going to come down to, I think, mistakes. Who plays a cleaner game? I think there's there's ability on both sides, but there's also a ton of inconsistent play on both sides. Um, this is a team that won a squeaker already. Has given up a ton of points, um, and we've had really ups and downs where we've had really good quarters of defense and some really awful quarters of defense. We've had a couple decent quarters of offense and a whole lot of quarters of pretty bad offense. So,
Yeah,
um, whoever kind of puts the most consistent quarters of play together, I think is going to be the one that takes this game, because I don't think there's a ton of talent discrepancy. I think the talent is about the same overall. Um, but they've got a more experienced coach. Obviously, we're working with an interim, and they've got somebody that's been there, been doing it for about a decade now. So uh, it's going to be interesting to see if any of that comes into play. But if we can play a consistent game, I think there's a chance for us to take a W down there. I have zero confidence in us being able to put 4 quarters together, though.
yeah, I don't have any confidence in that. I'm hoping maybe the defense looks a little better with only one chef in the kitchen now. But I don't know. It really depends on if we have any exodus of players this week. I mean, it's like their last week to redshirt, so I don't know. Um, it's definitely going to be. It depends on Kyron. Like, it depends on the offensive line, and it depends on if Kyron can like get over whatever he was going through, and he can trust himself to make the right decision. And when you see the open receiver, fire the ball, like sling the pill, like it's open, like trust him to catch it.
He's got to find a balance, man. He's got to find a balance between worrying too much about making a mistake, or whether someone's going to drop a football, or whether the play's not going to be there, versus trying to do everything and doing too much. Because that's really been, Kyron has not found that middle ground. I mean, he had the back half of 23. He found this sweet spot where he was able to ride that rail instead of falling on one side or the other. And since then, it feels like he hasn't been able to consistently ride that rail in game in, game out. He'll have a game here, a game there, where he looks like who we thought he could be. Think about Miami last year. Parts of the first half against Vanderbilt. There's been bright spots here or there, but he has not been able to consistently put those quarters together in the same way that he did in 2023, the back half of that season. And I don't know if it's a confidence thing, or if it's something else going on, or if it's too many different people talking to him about what he needs to do. And having, really third coordinator in so many years, and all this stuff. I mean, there's a lot of different things going on, um, that he's had to deal with a lot in his time in Blacksburg. But at the same time, at some point, if you want to take the next step, you got to do it yourself.
Yeah, I mean, if he only got one more shot to prove it, this
Yep.
is it. So you got to go out and you got to put as much good tape out there as heavenly possible. Uh, I mean, the O line. If we can get the run game, if Martellus Hawkins can run the ball, then we're going to be good. Terry and Stewart, hopefully he can play. He wasn't healthy enough to play against Wofford, so he didn't. But Um, I'm hoping like if you can run the ball against NC State, like, and then stop Hollywood Smothers on the other side and CJ Bailey, then we have a chance to win that game. But
Yeah.
if not, then good luck.
Yeah, I'm kind of excited to see JoJo get some more run this week and see what he can do um, in the defense a little bit more. I think that's going to be when you look at cornerback. Obviously, that was a concern coming in this year with what we lost with Mansour. Obviously, Dorian going to the NFL, and now Dante. Um, entering the portal there, man. Like it's going to be important to get guys like JoJo some run here, see what they can do, and hopefully they can step up, make some plays for us, and um, be good enough to slow them down enough where our offense can take care of the rest.
Yeah, hopefully Jordan Bass continues to step up. Uh, Brandon Johnson was getting some burn last week. Peanut.
I saw that,
Uh,
man. I saw
I
that.
was
He
happy
looked
for
good.
him. I wish we'd have kept Braylon. Braylon looks good at Wake. We'll get to him. I'll get to him next week. But I'm happy
In
for him.
hindsight, we needed to keep him. No
Yeah,
doubt.
he,
No doubt.
at least from a IQ standpoint, at the very least, like he should be on the field.
Yeah.
Uh, just hopefully, you need to. I mean, you have nothing to lose. Just go out there and play like you got nothing to lose. Like, don't second guess yourself. Fly around. If you're gonna make a mistake, do it 110%, 110 miles per hour. Um, like nobody thinks you can win, so fuck it, win. Like, go out there, put your best tape on the field, and do something.
Yeah, I mean, unless we start stacking wins unexpectedly, I mean, we're probably not going to be favored in any other matchup the rest of the season. Maybe, maybe one, maybe one.
Yeah, maybe one, but it's vibe season. We're here for the tailgates. We're here for communion within Lane Stadium, or if you happen to travel for a game. Yeah, man, the light is at the end of the tunnel, but we're on a long road to that point. So
Yeah, I mean, I
strap
think the
in.
good thing about this is that you probably are looking at a long season, but you're also looking at some interesting developments for the program that are going to start coming, with this meeting coming up, and it's going to be sprinkled throughout the rest of the season. So there's going to be something to get excited about outside of just the product. And we all know that getting together on Saturday in Lane Stadium is a good time, regardless of what the team does. And I think a little bit of the monkey being off the back of the program, I think that'll make those experiences even better this year because, again, we're not going to be stuck in purgatory. We're making moves, the wheels are turning. So you're out there, it's like, okay, well, we might lose, but at least we know we're going to lose and there's something going to be done about it. And you're not just going in there with like, all right, well, we're picked to lose this game, and we're still stuck with this coach. We're still stuck with this structure that we don't like. There's things happening where you can still get excited about a product, even if you're not stacking the wins the way you want to this season.
Absolutely, man. It's another week closer to whatever is happening. NC State
NC
this
State, man.
weekend, the red
NC
and
State,
black
baby.
Wolfpack. So, hey, let's just go down there and get a dub.
I mean, let's go down there and beat their ass a little bit. I mean, that's what I'd like to see. I mean, I'd like to
Yeah,
see
make them feel it.
if they can go out there and make them feel it for 4 quarters and let the chips fall where they may, that's all we can expect the rest of this route going forward. I don't want to get embarrassed anymore like ODU. I don't want to get embarrassed like the second half of Vandy. Go out there, play 4 quarters hard, play to the best of your ability, let the chips fall where they may. That's all you can do.
Absolutely. And as always, man, go Hokies.
Go Hokies, baby.